So my name's Rob Wormald. I'm a developer advocate on the Angular team at Google, so I'm not at the wrong conference, apparently. So we're going to talk today a little bit about Angular, a little bit of AngularJS, where we're going, what we're doing. Who in the crowd today has heard of Angular? Raise your hands. Awesome. How many of you are using AngularJS, Angular 1? Less of you. Angular 2, Angular 4? Cool. Anybody have no idea what Angular is at all? I love talks like this. Cool. OK, so just a quick review, right? Web 1.0, this is where we came from. This is where we all started. Web 1.0, right? The basic idea is you have a server. That server builds you an HTML page. That HTML page gets sent out to your browser. Your browser renders it, repeat, right? And then we moved towards the new world of WebS. This is Web 2.0, single-page apps, SPAs, as you know them. The basic distinction here is that a single-page application, right, you send it to the browser once, you send that HTML out once, and then from there, all communication is AJAX, right? It's JSON going back and forth. This is great. This is not an easy thing to do, but this is where Angular, AngularJS came from. So you'll hear me switch between using the word AngularJS and the word Angular in this talk today. Just so we're clear, and kind of this is a thing that we're working to make better and better, but AngularJS we refer to as kind of the old version of Angular, Angular 1x. And then we refer to Angular 2x just as Angular. You'll probably hear us say it's just Angular. So when we're talking about Angular, we mean the new, shiny, awesome TypeScript Angular. So if you don't use Angular today, Angular is a web framework. As I said, it comes with all of these awesome features, things like internationalization. We've got a command line tool, some cool language service integrations with TypeScript. I could do like a 2-hour talk talking about all of this stuff. Most of you are using Angular, so I'm not going to do that. We'll get into some kind of more interesting stuff today. So quick refresher, if you haven't seen Angular before, if you haven't used Angular 2 before, this is an Angular 2 component. If you're using Angular 1x, it's very much like you used to write components in 1.5. We'll just kind of flip through these pieces. So all Angular apps are composed out of components. You compose components into trees of components. This builds you an app. A couple of things just to point out for you here. Angular, we put together with decorators. This decorator is this @ component symbol here. This is a thing that comes from TypeScript. It's just a way of attaching metadata to a class, a little bit of extra information, right? So on this, we're saying this is an Angular component. It's got a selector there, how we use it in HTML. It's got a template, which has some other components nested in it. We've got some data binding here, right? So this is HTML. We want to bind the status from our class down here. This is just a coffee maker. This is simple data binding. And then to listen to events, right, set up a button. We've got a click handler here. So the parentheses mean when I click the button, go ahead and call this method. This is Angular in a nutshell. We also do dependency injection. Typically, when I go to JavaScript conferences and I talk about dependency injection, people are like, what? What is dependency injection? Why would you do this? I love coming to Build because I can talk about dependency injection, and everybody in this room is probably convinced that it's a good idea already, right? So in Angular, we use TypeScript for dependency injection. So you can see here what I'm saying is I need an instance of my log service injected into my component. This is not special syntax. This is just TypeScript. So Angular knows to look at that TypeScript symbol and say, cool, we need a log service. Look at the injector and pass it in. So we use Angular quite a lot at Google. And this is what I really want to talk about today, why we do it, how we do it, some of the cool things we're doing with TypeScript. So I want to talk about where we use Angular inside of Google, what we use it for, why we did it. And then beyond that, why we chose TypeScript, why we use TypeScript in Angular. So we like this phrase, Google runs on Angular. So things like this. I'm not able to launch a product. I can't ship anything at Google without Angular. All of our internal tooling for launch approvals, release management, that's all written in Angular. We can't hire people without Angular. Everything at Google, all hiring-wise, goes through Angular applications. I don't get paid. I don't get raises, or I don't get my pay demoted without Angular. We don't track bugs without Angular, right? And more and more and more. So the point of this is that we basically build every internal tool at Google with Angular.